Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are not just talking about a sports star. We're talking about a cultural phenomenon, a deity, really, a man whose career was so long and so dominant that for about 1 billion people he wasn't just a cricketer.
No, not at all. He was the sun the entire solar system revolved around. It's impossible to overstate that.
It really is.
We throw the word icon around so much in sports, you know? LeBron James is an icon, Messi is an icon, but this is different. This is almost religious.
We are talking, of course, about the little master, Sachin Tendulkar.
The god of cricket. That's not an exaggeration. That's what people called him.
And usually when you talk about a god, you don't really look at the stats, right? You worship. But today we were taking a very different approach. We were pulling from a fascinating piece of analysis by Jarrod Kimber in his book, The Art of Batting.
Right.
And Kimber does something pretty bold. He ranks Tendulkar as the #2 test batter of all time.
Which is a massive claim, a huge claim. Because, usually the debate is just who is the best. And in cricket, that answer is mathematically broken.
Right, because of one man. Because Don Bradman.
Exactly. Don Bradman is #1. He has to be. He averaged 99.94. The next best is what, in the low 60s?
It's not even close.
It's not even the same sport, statistically. Bradman is a glitch in the matrix. So when Kimber ranks Tendulkar at #2, he is effectively saying, this is the greatest human being to ever pick up a bat.
That is the distinction we need to make here. Bradman is the alien.
Yes.
Tendulkar is the king of humans.
Precisely. And the question Kimber tries to answer is, why? Is it just because he played for 24 years? Is it because he scored the most runs? I mean, those are impressive, but is there something more? Something in the technique, the adaptability, the software of the player that makes him the premier modern great?
That is our mission today. We are going to unpack how a guy who stands 5'5", which, let's be honest, is not exactly an intimidating physical stature, managed to dominate the most physically imposing bowlers on the planet for nearly a quarter of a century.
And we're going to do it by looking at metrics you probably haven't heard of before. Things like plus years and the evolution of specific shots over time. It's fascinating stuff.
So let's start at the very beginning, the origin story. Because there is this debate in every single sport, nature versus nurture. Was he born with it or did he build it?
And Kimber brings up a quote from Rahul Dravid to kick this off. Now, for you listening, if you don't know, Rahul Dravid was known as the Wall.
The ultimate technician.
The ultimate. He was the guy who built his game brick by brick, hour by painful hour in the nets. If anyone understands hard work, it's Dravid.
So what does he say?
He said about Sachin, simply, this guy was just born to bat.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Born to bat sounds a little bit like myth-making, doesn't it? He kind of discounts the thousands and thousands of hours he must have spent practicing. Are we just romanticizing talent and ignoring the grind?
I would usually agree with you 100%. We love to call things magic or God-given when they're actually just a result of obsessive, repetitive practice.
Yeah.
But Kimber brings up a control group that makes you rethink that whole position.
A control group in sports.
Yes. A perfect, almost scientific control group. Sachin's son, Sachin Tendulkar.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see exactly where you're going with this.
Think about the variables here. If greatness is purely about nurture, about the environment, the coaching, the access to facilities, then Sachin Tendulkar should be the greatest batter of the next generation, period.
Because of access. The best access imaginable.
Unrivaled access. I mean, think about it. Sachin grew up with the greatest batter of all time as his father and his personal tutor. He had access to world-class facilities. The book mentions he trained at Lord's in London, the home of cricket.
He could pick up the phone and get advice from literally any legend of the game.
Any legend. He had the best equipment, the best nutrition, the best exposure. The nurture variable was just completely maxed out.
And then what was the result?
Sachin Tendulkar became a professional cricketer, which is incredibly impressive in itself. Let's not downplay that. But he became a left-arm swing bowler.
A bowler, not a batter.
A bowler. And a decent one, a fringe professional level player, but not a generational batting genius. He didn't inherit the thing.
Wow.
Kimber's point is that you can teach technique, you can teach discipline, you can buy the best bat in the world, but you cannot teach the processing speed, the hand-eye coordination, and that innate sort of supercomputer that Sachin had in his brain.
It's a bit heartbreaking for the son, honestly, but it really proves the point in a powerful way. You can't manufacture a Sachin.
You really can't.
Mm-hmm.
So Jarrod was right. He hit millions of balls, yes. Of course he did. But lots of people hit millions of balls. Sachin had something that just couldn't be bottled or passed on.
So he has this innate genius. But genius, I mean, it usually burns out or it fades with age. The thing with Sachin, the thing that is so hard to wrap your head around, is that he kept it going for an amount of time that just doesn't make sense. Let's talk about the longevity.
This is part one of our analysis, and it's maybe the most staggering part of his story, the unrivaled longevity. To understand this, you have to understand when he started.
1989. He was 16 years old.
16. Just stop and think about that. What were you doing at 16? You were probably worrying about a math test or learning to drive a car.
Yeah, not facing the fastest bowlers in the world in Pakistan.
And getting hit in the face, famously, bleeding from the nose, and refusing to leave the field. But Kimber points out that this wasn't just a cameo. We've seen teenagers debut before, right? It happens.
Yeah.
But usually they struggle.
Right. They're called prodigies, but they play like kids for a few years. They have to find their feet at the top level.
Exactly. Kimber highlights this as the teenage phenomenon. If you look at the entire history of Test cricket, the only other top 6 batter who played more than 15 tests as a teenager is Mohammad Ashraful from Bangladesh.
And how did he do? What was his average?
He averaged 22, which is fine. He was a kid playing against men. It's understandable. But now look at Sachin. By the time Sachin entered his 20s, before he could legally buy a beer in the United States, he had already scored 1,405 test runs.
At what average?
At an average of 46.8.
An average of almost 47 is a Hall of Fame career for most international players. And he did that before he stopped growing.
It's completely absurd. But the longevity argument isn't just he played for a long time. That's part of it. But the bigger point is that he played across 2 completely different eras of the sport. Kimber argues that Sachin Tendulkar effectively played 2 different sports.
2 different sports? You mean the game changed that much during his career?
Fundamentally, it changed at its very core. When Sachin debuted in 1989, cricket was still, shaking off its amateur roots. The professionalism wasn't there yet.
And no technology.
No technology at all. No third umpires reviewing runouts.
No Hawkeye. No DRS challenging the umpire's decision.
Nothing. If the umpire made a mistake, you walked off the field. That was it. And the pitches, the actual strips of dirt they bat on, were often uncovered or poorly curated. They were dangerous. They were variable. One ball would skid low. The next would fly at your throat.
So a minefield.
Basically. Now, fast forward to when he retires in 2013.
We're in the full HD era now.
High definition. Super slow motion replays of every angle. The decision review system, or DRS, where you can challenge the umpire with ball tracking technology. The pitches are manicured, curated surfaces that are protected from the rain, like precious museum artifacts.
And the players are full-time athletes with nutritionists and data analysts.
Exactly. It's a different world. He bridged the gap between the Wild West of cricket and the science lab of modern cricket.
That is a massive shift. Usually the old guard gets weeded out when a game evolves that fast. The game gets too quick or too technical for them.
That's the normal path of a sporting career, right? But Sachin didn't just survive the transition. He dominated through it. And this is where Kimber introduces a metric that I think is just brilliant. It's called plus years.
Okay, let's unpack plus years, because raw stats can be misleading across different eras, right? An average of 50 in the 1980s might mean something very different than an average of 50 in the 2000s.
Spot on. Think of batting averages like money. $100 in 1920 bought you a lot more than $100 today. Right.
Of inflation.
Exactly. Cricket has run inflation. An average of 50 on the uncovered, erratic pitches of the past is worth way more than an average of 50 on a flat highway of a pitch in 2010 where the ball just comes onto the bat perfectly. So Kimber doesn't just look at the raw number. He looks at the gap between the player and everyone else playing in that same year.
So he's grading on a curve for each specific year.
Precisely. A plus year means you didn't just pass the class, you wrecked the curve. You averaged significantly higher than the global standard for that specific 12-month period. It normalizes all the data across all the eras.
It's a brilliant way of looking at it. So how does Sachin stack up?
Kimber calculates that Sachin Tendulkar had 18 plus years. 18
years where he was statistically better than the global average.
Significantly better. 18. That is a whole Hall of Fame career in itself. And within that, he had 12 years that Kimber considers great years, which is an even higher tier.
And how does that compare to other legends?
No other player in history, not Ricky Ponting, not Brian Lara, not Jacques Callis, has had as many great years or plus years. It's not even close.
So for nearly 2 decades, he wasn't just good. He was, by the numbers, superior to his peers year in and year out.
Consistently, there was never really a dip, even late in his career. I mean, I was looking at the numbers for when he turned 35. Now, in most sports, 35 is the cliff. That's when the reflexes go, the body breaks down.
That's the retirement tour. You wave to the crowd and struggle to hit the ball off the square.
Not Sachin. After turning 35, he scored 4,139 runs at an average of 49.9.
Come on. He averaged 50 after turning 35.
Essentially, yes. And that run total is the third most runs ever scored by any batter in history in that age bracket. Kimber's takeaway is that there was never a time in his 24-year career where he wasn't considered great. Essentially, for 18 years, you had a player who is definitively above average for his nation and for the world.
That is just mind-blowing. Most athletes have a peak, maybe 4, 5, 6 years if they're lucky. His peak lasted 20 years.
But here's the thing. You don't do that just by being talented. The game figures you out. Bowlers find your weakness. The physical demands change. The only way you survive that long is to evolve. You have to constantly update your software.
And that brings us perfectly to part 2. The technical genius, specifically how he handled the 2 biggest threats in cricket, extreme pace and world-class spin.
Let's start with pace. Now, we've mentioned he is 5'5".
The little master.
Right. And being short in cricket has some advantages. You have lower center of gravity. You can have better balance. But against express pace, we're talking bowlers throwing the ball at 95 miles per hour. It is terrifying.
Because the bounce is relative, isn't it? A ball that bounces to the waist of a tall guy is bouncing up to the throat of a short guy.
Exactly. The danger zone is just so much larger for a batter like Sachin. He is constantly having to deal with balls threatening his head and his chest. Kimber argues that facing express pace as a shorter batter is a unique puzzle. You can't just play the same way a 6'4" player plays.
So how did he adapt? What was his solution?
Kimber uses the evolution of one specific shot, the uppercut, to show this genius. He compares 2 moments, 5 years apart. First, let's go to the 2003 World Cup, India versus Pakistan.
The biggest stage in the game. The pressure doesn't get any higher.
Massive pressure. And he is facing Shoaib Akhtar, the Rawalpindi Express, the fastest bowler in the world at that time, maybe the fastest ever. Shoaib bowls a thunderbolt short and wide outside off stump.
He's trying to take his head off or get him to nick the ball to the wicketkeeper.
That's the plan. Now, a normal human reaction might be to duck or to just slash at it wildly and hope for the best. But Sachin plays a cut shot, basically a horizontal bat shot, but he deliberately gets under the ball. He slices it high in the air over the backward point fielder for a 6.
I remember that shot. It looked iconic. It was so arrogant almost, like he just dismissed the pace entirely.
It was controlled aggression. He used Shoaib's own pace against him. But now let's fast forward 5 years, 2008. India is touring Australia. They are playing in Perth.
And for those who don't know, tell us about Perth, the WACA ground.
The WACA in Perth is legendary. It is the fastest, bounciest pitch in the world. The ball just flies off that surface. It's like batting on concrete. And Sachin is facing Brett Lee, who is the speed demon of that era.
So same situation, really. Fast bowler, fast pitch, short ball, aimed at his head.
But the shot has evolved. This time, he doesn't hit it over point. Kimber describes Sachin bending his back like he's at a beach limbo party. He arches his spine backwards, gets his head completely out of the way, and uses a fairly straight bat to just ramp the ball.
So he just deflects it. He doesn't even swing the bat.
He just guides it. He uses Lee's pace to flick it over the slips, the fielders waiting behind him for 4 or 6. It's a totally different shot.
Why the change? Why not play the 2003 uppercut again?
Because on the Perth pitch, the bounce is even higher, even more extreme. The cut shot over point is much riskier. You might top edge it and get caught. The ramp over the slips is safer and accesses a completely different part of the field.
So he literally reprogrammed his reaction to the same threat based on the specific pitch and the specific bowler.
And he did it while the ball was traveling at 90 miles per hour. He explained later that it wasn't about fear. It wasn't about backing away from the ball. It was about opening up scoring options. He knew, they are going to bounce me because of my height. So I will turn their #1 weapon into my personal ATM machine.
That is an incredible processing speed. Just unbelievable.
And the training for this wasn't high-tech. I mean, that's another thing. There is a great anecdote from Rahul Dravid about the early days. Dravid recalls being in the nets with Sachin, and Sachin is the one bowling.
Wait, why was the best batter in the world bowling in the nets?
Because the actual Indian seam bowlers were tired. They had bowled too much in the match, so Sachin is running in, bowling medium pace, just so Dravid can get some practice in. Dravid talks about playing on coconut mats in Bangalore to simulate bounce.
You mean like rugs?
Yeah, jute mats placed over the dirt. When the ball hits the mat, it just zips off at an unpredictable height and speed. Kimber's point is that Sachin built this pristine, adaptable technique against pace without the throwdown specialists, the high-tech ball machines, and the analytics teams that modern players have. He built it on mats and in dusty old nets.
Speaking of dusty nets, we have to talk about the other side of the coin, the other great threat, spin, and specifically the greatest duel in modern cricket history, Sachin Tendulkar versus Shane Warne.
This is 1998, Australia's touring India. Shane Warne is at the absolute peak of his powers. He is, without question, the greatest leg spinner the game has ever seen.
The man who could turn the ball on glass. A true magician.
Exactly. And the hype for this series was like a heavyweight boxing title fight. It was Ali versus Frazier. It was billed as Sachin versus Warne. And Kimber goes into deep detail about how Sachin prepared for this. He didn't just go to the nets and hit a few balls. He deconstructed Warne. He studied him.
What was the specific threat from Warne that he was worried about?
The drift and the rough. Warne could make the ball curve in the air before it even hit the ground. That's the drift. And he loved to pitch the ball into the rough outside the leg stump of a right-handed batter.
Okay, explain, like I'm time for a second. Explain the rough to the non-cricketer. Why does digging up the dirt matter so much?
Great question. So imagine a pristine pitch at the start of a game is like a pool table. The ball rolls true, it bounces predictably, but over the course of a 5-day game, the bowler's spiked shoes tear up the grass and the dirt on specific parts of the pitch. That creates the rough. It's like a patch of potholes on a highway.
So if the ball hits one of those potholes.
Chaos. Absolute chaos. If a spinning ball hits the rough, it grips the surface like a tire on sandpaper. It can explode sideways, it can bounce violently high, or it can skid low and fast. It turns the game from a science into a lottery. And Warne was a master of aiming for those potholes outside the batter's legs to make them look foolish.
So how on earth do you prepare for chaos?
Well, Sachin went to the nets in Mumbai, and he literally dug up the wicket himself. He grabbed a tool and hacked at the dirt outside his leg stump to create his own personal pothole.
That is obsessive behavior. I love it.
It's genius. Then he had local leg spinners come in, and he told them, I want you to bowl around the wicket, which means coming from a specific angle, and I want you to aim for that hole every single ball.
So he was simulating the exact nightmare scenario Warne was planning to unleash on him.
Word for word, exactly. And he developed a specific strategy. Usually against spin, a batter might step out of their crease to hit the ball before it spins. But for this, Sachin decided to change his stance. He opened up his body to get a better view, and he decided he was going to hit Warne against the turn over mid-wicket.
That sounds incredibly risky. Hitting against the spin is usually a recipe for disaster. You get bowled or caught.
It is. It's the highest risk shot you can play, unless you're Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah.
So let's go to the match. The Chennai test, first innings. Warne actually gets him out, caught at slip for just 4 runs.
Advantage Warne. The crowd must have been silenced. A national tragedy.
Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. But then comes the second innings. The pitch is crumbling, the rough is gnarly. Warne knows this is his moment. He comes around the wicket, his eyes lighting up, aiming for that rough patch. It's the exact scenario Sachin had practiced 1,000 times in his mind.
The trap is set.
And Sachin springs it. He waits for the ball to hit the rough. He reads the spin in a split second, and he slog sweeps him into the stands at mid-wicket. Not once. Repeatedly. He absolutely tore Warne to pieces. He scored 155 not out and won the game for India.
And didn't Warne have a famous quote after that innings? Something about nightmares.
He said he would have nightmares about Sachin's bat, but the more direct quote came during the innings. He went to his captain, Mark Taylor, and he just said, I think we're fed.
Laugh. That really sums it up, doesn't it? When you make the greatest bowler of all time say that, you know you've won the mental battle completely.
It just shows that Sachin wasn't just reacting to the ball. He was deconstructing the bowler's entire strategy before the match even started. He beat Warne in the nets in Mumbai before he ever faced him on the pitch in Chennai.
That combination of obsessive preparation and flawless execution is just terrifying. But let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked about the gritty adaptation. Let's talk about the beauty, because Kimber argues that Sachin wasn't just effective, he was aesthetically perfect.
There is a great line from Ian Bishop, the former West Indian fast bowler and now a brilliant commentator. He says Sachin had a fetish for straight lines.
A fetish for straight lines.
Mhm.
What does that mean visually when you watch him bat?
Think about a pendulum, a grandfather clock. It swings back and forth in a perfect straight line. That was Sachin's bat swing. Bishop contrasts this with other great players. Think of someone like Shivnarine Chanderpaul or even Steve Smith today.
Oh yeah, Steve Smith is all twitches and weird angles. He looks like he's fighting a swarm of bees before every ball.
Exactly. They play with crooked lines. Their bats come from strange angles. It works, but it's ugly. There are effective unorthodoxies. Sachin was the textbook come to life. His back came down straight. His head was still. He hit the ball straight back past the bowler. It was technical perfection.
But, and this is part 3 of our discussion, being textbook can sometimes be a trap. Sometimes the textbook doesn't work. And Kimber argues that Sachin's greatest strength was his discipline to throw the textbook out the window when he absolutely needed to.
This is my favorite story in the entire analysis. It's the Sydney Test 2004.
The 241 not out. This is the stuff of legend.
It is. So leading up to this game, Sachin was in a slump, a rare slump. He wasn't scoring runs, and the way he was getting out was consistent. He was playing the cover drive, his most beautiful signature shot, and he was nicking the ball to the keeper, the slips, over and over.
It's a siren song, right? The ball is wide, it looks juicy, your body just wants to drive it, and edge, you're out.
Exactly. It's a low percentage shot when you're out of form. So he walks out to bat in the Sydney Cricket Ground, the SCG. And he makes a decision that is frankly insane for a player of his caliber. He decides, I am not going to play the cover drive.
Just cold turkey. That's his favorite shot. That's like telling a bird not to fly or telling Steph Curry he's not allowed to shoot three-pointers.
Cold turkey. He decided that if the ball was in that channel outside the off stump, he would just leave it or defend it. He would not offer the shot. He would force the bowlers to change their plan and bowl at his legs.
And how long did he keep this up?
He batted for 10 hours. 10 hours. He faced 436 balls. He scored 241 runs, and post-match analysis shows he did not play a single attacking cover drive through the offside.
436 balls. That is an unbelievable level of mental discipline.
Think about the mental strength that takes. The ball is coming down at 85 miles per hour. Your muscle memory, built up over 20 years, is screaming, AT me! Your ego is saying, that's my best shot. And your brain has to override all of that every single time and say, no, leave it. 436 times.
Even after he got to his century, surely he relaxed a bit then.
Even after he reached 200. Usually when a player gets to 100, they relax. They start playing their shots. Sachin kept the embargo on until the innings was declared over. Steve Waugh, the Australian captain at the time, was just amazed. He said he couldn't believe a player could repress their natural instinct to that extent just for the sake of scoring runs.
It's almost masochistic to deny yourself your greatest pleasure.
It's pure cold discipline. And Jarrod points out that this was Sachin's superpower. Most players, if they have a technical flaw, they need to go to the nets for a week to fix it. They need a coach to point it out. Sachin could change his technique mid-innings. He could literally say to himself, okay, the cover drive isn't working today. Fine. Delete program, reboot, continue batting.
That adaptability brings us to the next major argument for why he is the #2 greatest of all time. The global traveler.
This is a huge differentiator, a really big one. And this is where the comparison with the old-timers like Bradman or Jack Hobbs gets very interesting.
Because Bradman played in the 1930s and 40s, a very different era of travel and competition.
Right. And in that era, international cricket was basically played in 2 places, England and Australia. Bradman played almost all of his cricket on those 2 types of pitches. He didn't have to go to the dust bowls of India or the humidity of the Caribbean or the green, seaming pitches of New Zealand.
He had a very limited map, a limited set of challenges.
A limited data set, exactly. Now, look at Sachin. He played everywhere. Kimber highlights in the book that he averaged over 40 in 10 different countries.
10 different countries. That is the definition of a consistent all-conditions player.
He averaged over 50 in 5 of them. But what's really impressive, what really stands out, is his record in the places that are traditional nightmares for Indian batters. Historically, Indian batters have struggled in conditions with pace and bounce.
Places like South Africa, England, Australia, New Zealand.
And the West Indies. Sachin averaged over 45 in all of those toughest touring conditions.
Let's talk about that West Indies tour in 1997. Because I feel like people who started watching cricket later, they forget how scary the West Indies were back then.
Oh, they were terrifying. It wasn't the absolute prime of the 80s, but they still had Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, and Ian Bishop. These are giants of the game. The pitches were fast and difficult, and yet Tendulkar averaged 57 in that series.
Facing Ambrose at his peak.
Facing Ambrose at his hostile, brilliant peak, and here is a nugget that Kimber drops that just blew my mind. In that entire 5-test series, facing one of the greatest fast bowlers in the history of the sport, Curtly Ambrose never dismissed Sachin Tendulkar, not once.
That is a badge of honor right there. To go to the Caribbean, face the giant Ambrose on his home turf, and never give him your wicket. That establishes you as a master.
It absolutely does. And he did the same in South Africa. He averaged 46.4 touring there, facing Alan Donald, Sean Pollock, Mackay Ntini, and later on, Dale Steyn. In Australia, facing the dominant McGrath and Warne-era teams, he averaged 50.
So he wasn't just piling up runs at home on flat tracks, which is a criticism sometimes leveled at subcontinental players. He was walking into the lion's den, repeatedly, and eating the lion's lunch.
And that's why Kimber ranks him as the premier modern great. He faced every type of bowling imaginable, amateur speed at the start, modern express pace, the dark art of reverse swing in Pakistan, mystery spin from Sri Lanka. And he did it all while carrying something that Bradman never had to carry.
The expectations.
The weight of a nation, of a billion people.
This is part 5. Motivation, pressure, and the selfish debate. Because sure, Bradman was famous, but Australia had a population of what, maybe 7 million people back then?
Something like that, yeah. A small sporting nation. Sachin was playing for a country of over 1 billion people. And for a large part of his career, especially in the 90s, the Indian team wasn't great.
He was the team. The whole batting lineup.
Literally. There was a famous saying in India, switch off the TV when Sachin gets out, because the game was effectively over. For 24 years, India did not have to worry about the number 4 spot in the batting order, but Sachin had to perform every single time while being the most famous person in India. Every failure wasn't just a sports stat, it was a national tragedy.
How do you even function under that kind of pressure? How do you not crack?
It requires a level of obsession, a single-mindedness that is bordering on unhealthy. And Kimber contrasts him with Brian Lara here, which I think is a perfect comparison.
It's the Prince of Trinidad, the other great batter of that era.
Lara is often compared to Sachin. He was more flamboyant, maybe had higher individual highs. He scored 400 in an innings, which Sachin never did. But there is a quote from Jimmy Adams, Lara's West Indian teammate. He says, "There are times when Brian gets bored. Sachin never got bored. Ever."
That's so interesting. So Lara was the genius jazz musician who might play an absolute masterpiece one night and then just walk off stage the next if he wasn't feeling the vibe.
That's a great way to put it. Lara might perform depending on his mood or the specific challenge. If the game was already decided, Lara might lose interest. Tendulkar was a machine. He was a Terminator. He treated a dead rubber match against Bangladesh the same way he treated a World Cup final against Australia. He was obsessed with scoring runs.
But paradoxically, that obsession sometimes drew criticism. And this is something I want to dig into because it surprises a lot of people. The selfish accusations.
It's a very real, if uncomfortable, part of the Tendulkar story.
But wait, really? The guy is a national deity who is out there criticizing him.
Well, there is a very specific and very heated debate around his 100th international century.
The big milestone.
Yeah.
The first and only man to hit 100 hundreds.
Right. And it took him a long time to get there. He was stuck on 99 centuries for over a year. It was the nervous 90s on a massive global scale. The pressure was immense.
The monkey was on his back. Giant monkey.
It was a gorilla. Finally, he gets it against Bangladesh in an ODI. A huge moment of relief. But the way he got it was controversial.
What happened? How did he play?
He slowed down significantly. Kimber points out the stats from that innings. Sachin took 125 balls to reach 94 runs. That's a decent pace. But then to get the next 6 runs, to get from 94 to the century, he took 13 balls.
In a one-day international, that's an eternity.
Especially in the death overs, the last few overs when you're supposed to be slogging and hitting boundaries. Kimber calls it a remarkable go slow. He basically shut up shop to ensure he got the milestone. And the kicker, India ended up losing that match to Bangladesh.
Ouch. So the argument is, He played for the record, not for the win.
That's the selfish Sachin theory. And Kimber takes a really nuanced view here. He argues that all truly great batters are inherently selfish to a degree. They have to be. They are obsessed with runs. Look at someone like Shivnarine Chanderpaul. He would stay at the crease forever, sometimes refusing to take singles, just to protect his average and occupy the crease.
So it's a dichotomy, a paradox of greatness.
Exactly. The individual pursuit of runs usually helps the team. You can't win without runs on the board, but sometimes, like in that Bangladesh game, the individual goal conflicts with the team's immediate needs in that specific situation. Kimber suggests that you don't get to 100 centuries without a level of single-mindedness that, at times, can border on selfishness. It's the cost of that kind of greatness.
That's a very fair point. You don't become the highest run scorer in the history of the sport by being altruistic with your wicket. You have to prize it above everything else.
Precisely. It's what makes them who they are.
So we've looked at the longevity, the technical evolution, the adaptability across the globe, and the incredible mental pressure. Let's bring it all together for the verdict. Why does Kimber rank him number 2, and why is he, arguably, the best of the modern era?
Well, number 1 is Bradman. We have to accept that. It's a mathematical reality. An average of 99.94 is just. It's a different plane of existence. It breaks the model.
He's the outlier. We accept the alien. So the real debate is for number 2.
Right. And the case for Sachin over Jack Hobbs, who Kimber ranks 3rd, is really about the diversity of the challenge and the modern context. Jack Hobbs was incredible, the master, but as we said, he played in a specific era, early 20th century, and mostly in England.
Limited variables.
Sachin's resume is just overwhelmingly complete. There's no box left unchecked. Runs in 10 countries. Runs against every type of bowling. Spin, pace, reverse swing, you name it. Runs on uncovered pitches from the 80s and on curated highways from the 2010s. Runs in the 20th century and the 21st century. And all of it under the crushing pressure of a billion people watching your every move.
It's the complete batter argument. He ticked every single box available to a cricketer in the modern global game.
That's Kimber's argument in a nutshell. While Bradman dominated his specific, limited era more completely than anyone else, Tendulkar mastered a more complex, globalized, and professionalized sport than anyone else in history. He is the ultimate modern great.
And visually, he just made it look so good.
That's the aesthetic part, going back to that Ian Bishop quote, the fetish for straight lines. He proved that you could score more runs than anyone else in history while playing the most technically pure, beautiful shots. He didn't hack his way to the top of the mountain, he painted his way there.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. We accept Bradman as the statistical anomaly, the unbreakable number 1. But if you consider all the variables, the travel, the media scrutiny, the different conditions, the evolution of the game, the sheer weight of pressure, is Sachin Tendulkar actually the true greatest batter of the fully realized global sport?
It's a really valid question, isn't it? If Bradman had to face Shane Warne in India, or Curtly Ambrose in Barbados, or deal with 24-hour news cycles and Twitter trolls, would he still average 99? We'll never know. But we do know that Sachin averaged over 50 through all of that hellfire for 24 years.
That is something to chew on. And if you want to see that evolution we talked about, the genius of his adaptation in real time, go to YouTube. Find the footage of that 2003 uppercut against Shoaib Akhtar, and then watch the 2008 Perth ramp shot against Brett Lee. Watch them back to back.
It's a masterclass in 10 seconds. It's genius in motion.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.